Lesson 1 in Chapter 7 is called Congruence and Transformations. If you take a look at the two words congruence and transformations, we've talked about both of these. These should be familiar vocabulary words for you. Congruence means equal to, same shape, same size, and we just had transformations in Chapter 6. So what this lesson is about is we're going to prove if two figures are congruent by using transformations, okay? So what I want you to do in your books, will you highlight this piece right here? It says, two figures are congruent if the second can be obtained from the first by a series of rotations, reflections, and or translations. And what that means is if you have one figure and you want to prove that it's congruent to the other, you have to do it by rotations or reflections or translations. Okay, we just can't look and say, oh yeah, they kind of look the same, so I think they're congruent. No, we have to prove it, and we have to do that by using transformations. Let's try an example. Determine if the two figures are congruent by using transformations. Then it says, explain your reasoning. Okay, so here's triangle ABC, and we have triangle XYZ, and we want to know, are they congruent? Are they the same shape and the same size? So what we have to do, we have to use transformations. So let's do this. Let's take triangle ABC and let's reflect it. Okay, so here's my first reflection. Here's A prime, B prime, C prime. Well, in order to finish it, let's take our reflection and let's translate it. Let's slide this down. And does it fit right on top of triangle XYZ? Yes, it does. Therefore, it is congruent. And we proved that by using a reflection and then a translation. Okay? Let's look at an example that would not be congruent. Okay? Let's take a look at these two figures here. They kind of look like Tetris figures. They want to know, are these two figures congruent? Well, you can kind of look at them and you can see that they're not congruent, but we have to prove it. Okay, so let's take this. Let's see if we can figure out using a reflection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it or reflect it. Okay, and here's where my reflection ends up. Right here. So do you see how these two pieces, this piece that sticks out and this piece that sticks out, they're not in the same position. It's not. They're not. Therefore, they're not congruent. Okay. Now, why don't you guys try the got it problems? In problem A, they want you to tell if quadrilateral A is congruent to quadrilateral B. Okay. Then in problem B, is this figure congruent to this figure? So pause the video right now. Find out if they're congruent, but you have to use transformations. Alright, if we take this figure right here, and let's do a reflection. Okay. If I reflect figure A, this is where it would be right here. Okay, so there's our reflection. Now to finish it, let's do a translation and let's slide it. And does it fit right over top of figure B? Yes, it does. Therefore, quadrilateral A and B, they are congruent because we reflected it, then we translated it right on top of each other. Alright, so let's take a look at B. I think with B, if we just did a rotation, we should be able to figure this out. So I'm going to rotate it here. Okay. And if we rotate it, you can kind of see that we can't get them to fit exactly right on top of each other. These two pieces that are sticking out aren't going to be in the same position. Okay, so this would be a case where these two figures are not congruent. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go backwards. We're going to determine the transformations. What did they use to figure out if the two figures are congruent? Okay, so let's look at our chart here. We have translations, reflections, and rotations. A translation, you can tell if they're the same size and the orientation is the same. Okay, this was kind of like the question you had on your Chapter 6 test. Reflection, the size is the same or the length is the same, but the orientation is reversed. Okay, it's flipped. And for a rotation, again, the size is the same, but the orientation is changed. So let's see if we can figure one of these out. Let's take a look at an example. Okay, example 3. Ms. Martinez created the logo shown. What transformations did she use if the letter D is the preimage and the letter P is the image? Are the two figures congruent? Okay, so if we take a look, here's her D and her P. We want to know, are these two figures congruent? Well, let's start with the preimage. Okay, let's rotate this D and let's rotate it down. Okay, then all we have to do is slide it into position, and we can see that those two figures are congruent. But we had to use a rotation and then a translation to do so. Okay. Okay, look at this got it problem. This is very similar to example 3. It says, what transformations could be used if the letter W is the preimage and the letter M is the image in the logo shown? Are the two figures congruent? Explain. So pause the video right now and go ahead and write down your answer. Okay, what did you come up with? The two figures, the M and the W, they are congruent, and it's just like example 3. If you take this M and you rotate it 180 degrees and then you slide it on top of the W, you're going to see that they are congruent. They're the same shape and the same size. Okay. Now I know that some of this was hard to see because we couldn't physically manipulate it, but we're going to do more practice in class. So what I need for you guys to do right now is go ahead and do your guided practice, and then we will talk about those problems in class. Okay?